Did AARO actually receive a peer-reviewed paper about UFOs and then lie about it? Yes. Yes, they did. Let's talk about it. So get in here. This is Jack with Gun McGrow. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, here goes.
Multiple points, and I know of one case where I know that he was not being truthful.
And he, of course, is the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick.
Our UAPX team briefed AARO in February of 2023, last year. And AARO has a copy, or had a copy of my peer-reviewed scientific paper on the speeds and accelerations. And then later, in March of that year, March last year, he was asked by Senator Gillibrand whether there have ever been any scientific publications suggesting that these things might be, and I don't know whether she used the term extraterrestrial or non-human, but that basically some unusual. I'll use the word unusual. I'm just paraphrasing here. And he said, no, there have not been any peer-reviewed scientific papers suggesting this, which is completely wrong.
So there you go. Kevin Newth gave a peer-reviewed paper about UFOs to the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, and the lovely lied his butt off about it. I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked. Seriously, I'm very interested to see when the mainstream public, well, to the extent that they're even aware of AARO, I'm really curious to see when they realize that AARO is another Blue Book. Again, to the extent that they're aware of Blue Book. Might be better to say, when will Kirsten Gillibrand, who has actually championed Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, when will she and others like her wake up and realize that AARO is just a disinformation tool? Or are they part of that program? In other news, from the latest Peruvian press conference regarding the Nazca mummies, we learned that some American scientists were actually studying the specimens. Forensic experts from the United States have done preliminary examinations of tridactyl specimens located in Peru from McDowell Law Firm. The scientists hope to work with the country of Peru in the Ministry of Culture to study these specimens in a culturally respectful manner. So yeah, they're having to work with the Ministry of Culture, who has been trying to cover this up from the beginning, even seizing the microphone at the press conference. So how is that interaction going to work? I mean, the Ministry of Culture was running around trying to confiscate the bodies. So how can you work with those people on the bodies? I mean, they're trying to seize the bodies. So that's really interesting. That's troubling that they're having to work with those people on this issue. So I mean, that's like working with Area 51 on UFOs, right? They're not going to tell the truth. They've been hiding this stuff forever. So but are there some pro-disclosure or at least pro-science people within the Ministry of Culture that will allow them to study these bodies and take the results of their studies seriously? Are they going to obfuscate and tamper with the results, or are they going to continue to try to confiscate the bodies? What is the interaction between the scientists and the Ministry of Culture going to be? Very interested to see how that plays out, but I'm very concerned that the Ministry of Culture may be stepping in to take some sort of role in the investigations. Meanwhile, from J. Alberto, the assistant to two secretaries in the government of Mexico, comes this intriguing UFO video. Check this out from Mexico. Wait for it. Wait for it. It's coming. Okay, there we go. There we go. Look at that. Boom. Boom. Crazy UFO action. I love it. That's wild. That's pretty cool, guys. That's pretty cool. Okay. I gotta see that again. Okay, so there's a flash of light. There's a flash of light. J. Alberto wonders if there's a portal that opens up. I mean, there could be. I mean, there seem to be portals, guys. There seem to be portals. So, I mean, maybe. Yeah, go watch the documentary A Tear in the Sky for a possible example of a portal caught on camera. Yeah, really cool, really cool. So is that what we're looking at? Are we looking at something else? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Speaking of cool UFO videos, this was sent to me by Astro Jeff, a viewer of the channel. Check this out. This is really cool. All right, because this is a very similar UFO to the one seen in Las Vegas. Look at that. Look, oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. He's got this fireball UFO. It's really cool. Really, really cool. Ben Hansen did a whole episode on his TV show about fireball UFOs over Ohio. It is a distinct subcategory of UFOs. And interestingly, at the town where that fireball UFO, those fireball UFOs were seen, there was a Navy installation. Even though it was inland, they were testing the submarines because it was a very deep lake. When one of these fireball UFOs seemed to crash or land, and some civilians went to take a look at it, the military blocked them off and sent them packing. So yeah, so fireball UFOs, just like the one seen in Vegas, and just like this one, possibly. I mean, maybe that's a meteor. Who knows? Who knows? But it is a thing. And they are around, and I would love more information about what was going on there and what was going on in Las Vegas. Okay, since we're talking about UFOs and UFO videos, this is supposedly an alien or an NHI caught on camera. Not a craft, but a being or a couple of beings. Let me know what you think this thing is. To me, that looks more ghostly than alien. If this is legit and it's not just like a, camera artifact or something like that, right? But I mean, that looks really phantasmal, very ghostly. Look at that thing. Does it have hooves? Does that thing have hooves? I think that thing has hooves. And look at that. Look at that. Look at that right there. Is that a horse? Is that a ghost of a horse? The head looks, that is a crazy looking ghosty alien critter there. I don't know, guys. Look at that. Look at that. But then you have this upright being that seems to have arms, more of a humanoid possibly. That is a crazy video, guys. That is a crazy video. Again, is that some sort of camera artifact, distorting the actual image? Because I've seen a lot of, ghost and alien videos, and this is what they tend to look like. So I'm inclined to think this is legit. I'm intrigued about the hooves, the hoof creature here. Does he have like only two legs, or no? He's got 4 legs, I think. He's got rear legs. He's got at least 3 legs, and he has this head sticking out. Intriguing footage, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Meanwhile, Joe Mergia has some encouraging words for us. He says, remember this, last April 13th, Gary Nolan had this to say on the Good Trouble Show. Gary Nolan said, where are we going to be in, let's say, 6 months? End of the summer. I do think that you're going to see some information coming from those on the inside who have decided to step forward. And that will change things. That will change things. 2 months later in the debrief, David Grush came forward. Carl Nell backed him, and Jonathan Gray made similar claims. A month after that, we had the hearing in Congress with Kraft and biologics being discussed. I'd say things changed in a big way, says Joe Mergia. So for folks who are now claiming that promises and claims were made and nothing happened, you're ignoring some important events that did take place, and you probably have an agenda. The 40 whistleblowers will come forward prediction from Danny Sheehan, was always something I didn't give much credence to and said so on here. And now we're waiting for some more shoes to drop. Well, I think that we will have whistleblowers coming forward. I don't think we're going to get all 40 this year, but hopefully we'll get a few of them in more congressional hearings, either in Congress or in the field hearings. But I do think that they're apparently going through the DOPSR process right now, and they're being cleared to say whatever they're allowed to say. And we've seen from David Grush that they're allowed to say quite a lot. Reverse engineering, crash retrievals, assassinations, the extra-dimensional nature of the phenomenon. They're allowed to say quite a lot. I'm actually really intrigued what they're not allowed to talk about. That they can talk about the Men in Black taking people out and extra-dimensional, technology. What can't they talk about? Maybe it's just like specific names and locations and programs and stuff like that. But I wonder what all these people have access to, and what, if is there any information pertaining to that, or, technologies that we may have in our possession that they are not allowed to talk about. Very intriguing. Either way, Joe Mergia is absolutely right. Promises have been made and kept. And there's all the reason in the world for optimism in the days to come. Meanwhile, I would be totally remiss if I didn't remark on the sex toys that John Greenwald is supposedly selling. At least that's the story, guys. At least that's the story. And there's Matt Ford showing one of them off right there. Okay, getting back to the tridactyl mummies. Yes, I got mummies on the brain, guys. I got mummies on the brain. This is a new textile that people have found, seeming to show a tridactyl mummy. He's got the 3 fingers and the 3 toes. And what's really interesting about this, well, first, one thing, he's got a being in his belly, or her belly, as, possibly indicating a pregnancy. But there's all sorts of similar beings around there. So that could just be an artistic device. Or if that's supposed to represent a child, could those be the children? Who knows, guys. But another interesting detail about this is that this headdress that the being is wearing is very similar to the headdress that was shown in the Nazca cave footage. The possibly dubious and possibly authentic Nazca cave footage where they were fighting mantis beings in caves and coming across that weird pyramid structure and stuff like that. They found a being wearing armor and a headdress that looked a lot like that. Meanwhile, from Project Unity, retired Air Force Colonel Dietrichson says nukes in space are not allowed because a non-human intelligence prevents it.
And then further on, I finally retired from the Air Force and joined the Boeing Company, where I was assigned to the Minuteman program, where I was responsible for the configuration accounting of all the nuclear fleet of Minuteman 1, 2, and 3. And during that period of time, I also learned about incidents involving nuclear weapons. And among these incidents were a couple of nuclear weapons sent into space were destroyed by the extraterrestrials. One incident, for example, was they actually photographed the UFO following the missile as it climbed into space and shining a beam on it, which neutralized the missile. And this was recorded. It was all hushed up. They split up the team that observed it, but of course eventually the news came out, and it was later published and confirmed it. Well, there was one incident when we exploded a nuclear weapon over the Pacific, and this was in about '61, I believe. And the consternation that it caused, because it shut out communications entirely over the Pacific Basin for a number of hours, in which no radio transmission was available at any time. And this was very significant, and of course this was one of the things that the extraterrestrials later, I learned, were highly concerned about, because it affected our ionosphere, and in fact spacecraft were unable to operate because of the pollution in the magnetic field of which they depended upon. The very end of the 70s or the early 80s, we attempted to put a nuclear weapon on the moon and explode it for scientific measurements and other things, which was not acceptable to the extraterrestrials.
So there you go. Very interesting. The idea that the beings don't want nukes in space. Certainly not the first time I've heard that idea. And I've also heard that if there was ever a nuclear war, between, for example, Russia and the U.S., that the beings would intervene. But if they did that, humanity would no longer be custodians of the earth. That they would step in overtly and kind of take charge, and we would be under them. Something we probably don't want. Better than a nuclear holocaust, but but who knows if that's true? Who knows if that's true? They certainly didn't intervene in World War II. However, that was a very isolated or two very isolated cases. It remains to be seen how much, if any of that is true, and hopefully we will never find out. Meanwhile, Merrick VR is posting this also about UFOs and nukes. On August 25th, 1966, UFOs disrupted radio communications at a Minot Air Force Base nuclear missile launch site. 6 days earlier, a Border Patrol officer observed a metallic disc at close range amid several Minot Air Force Base nuclear missile silos. The U.A.P. disrupted his radio. And this is from the archives of J. Allen Hynek. Very interesting. For years, the Air Force has dismissed them as hoaxes, hallucinations, and misidentifications. Now, the Air Force's own scientific consultant on unidentified flying objects declares that many of the sightings cannot be so easily explained. Well, they are shutting off our nukes. They are blowing up our missiles, our warheads, or ICBMs that would be carrying warheads, and even more, as we've just heard. So, apparently, allegedly, I believe it from the research that I've done. That seems to be the case. Why are they doing this? They are also very interested in our nuclear energy facilities, as well as craft powered by nuclear energy. For example, our aircraft carriers. So, is it the weapons themselves they're worried about, or is it just our nuclear abilities in general? That's kind of what I go back to. They may just not trust our handling of nuclear energy. It may be less about war between human civilizations and more about just nuclear energy itself, in our ability to control it or use it. But again, we don't know until the beings, show up and tell us what their motives are. I guess we're just going to have to be guessing. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below, and let me know what you think about everything else covered today. I sure would appreciate it. And smash the like button, the subscribe button, all that kind of good stuff. And if you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, consider grabbing some merch in the merch store, a coffee mug, a t-shirt, or you can become a channel member, because channel members are indeed rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you. Meanwhile, there are plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.